government and its agencies should reflect the federal character of Nigeria. This principle aims to prevent dominance by one or a few ethnic groups or states, promote national unity, and foster a sense of belonging. The FCP is often confused with the quota system, but they serve different purposes. While the FCP focuses on representation in government appointments and public offices, the quota system aims to address inequality and provide opportunities for underrepresented groups in areas like education and civil service. The implementation of the FCP involves ensuring that government appointments and public service reflect the diversity of Nigeria's population. This includes appointing ministers from each state and ensuring that public service recruitment and promotions reflect the federal character. Despite its importance, the FCP faces challenges, including balancing merit with quota-based appointments and ensuring consistent implementation. In the light of recent events, what needs to be done to ensure a proper implementation of the federal character principle? This is the Eastern Eye. I am Alex Obodo. Welcome to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight is Professor Chijioke Owasomba from the Department of English Language, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Thank you so much, Professor Owasomba, for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, so I guess that the first thing would be, what have been your impressions about the federal character principle since 1979? If you are told to do a summary in a few words or a few sentences, is it a yay or a nay?
It's a nay.
And I'm sure I'm sure there could be a bunch of reasons for that.
Yeah, too many reasons. If you look at the Constitution itself, is a lie. The Constitution, because what you have talked about as arising from 1979 is a repetition. What you find today in the 1999 Constitution is what we call the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. That aspect of the Constitution, which is Chapter 2, of the Constitution, is one that is not justiciable. It's not, because you find out that it's fantastic. What happened was that the 1979 Constitution, there were two historians, two professors of note. One from University of Ife, incidentally, where I teach, Dr. Shego Shoba, and then another professor of history from ABU, Zaria. And so these two historians were nominated by General Obasanjo to participate in the making of this Constitution, the 1979 Constitution. And given their proclivity to defending the people, the masses, the true Nigerians, they wrote a minority report. And part of that minority report is what you see in Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution, which was an attempt, by the constitution makers to take, that aspect of the 1979 Constitution to the 1999 Constitution. And as I said earlier on, it is not justiciable. It is fantastic, the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. In fact, aspect that deals with the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, and Nigeria has operated it in the breach. Some people have argued, and I believe some people have argued that The 1999 Constitution, of course, which is the Constitution in operation, is a decree. Is decree number 24, of decree number 24, yes, of May 5, 1999. That was when the Constitution was promulgated. So it's a decree. It's a lie in the sense that if you look at the preamble to the Constitution, it lies that the people, you and I, have come together to agree, to the promulgation of the Constitution. So at no point did our people, come together to agree, that they had made a Constitution for ourselves. So perhaps, because the Constitution itself is a lie, can account, for what is happening with that, fundamental objectives and directive principles, of state, policy, which is a major, aspect of the Constitution. And as I said earlier on, is not justiciable. Perhaps because it is not, because you find fanciful, wonderful, golden ideals contained in that aspect of the Constitution. And so nobody, they don't respect it. Our leaders don't, respect it, and they do whatever they can, to undermine, the Constitution.
So typically, there must be reasons why the federal character principle is in jeopardy. Do you have maybe one or two or three reasons that we can point at and say, okay, this is the major reason why it is not happening? Is it for lack of the will to do it as a people? Or is this because maybe, just help us put it in perspective.
Yes, I mean, it's good for us to go back, to how you defined it. Because when you started, you defined what federal character, of Nigeria means. The federal character principle refers to the distinctive desire of the people of Nigeria to promote national unity, to foster national loyalty, and to give every citizen of Nigeria a sense of belonging to the nation, as expressed in Section 14, as you rightly quoted, section 14, 3, and 4 of this particular Constitution, which is the ground norm, that we have. And look, the other governments, if you look at when we started in 1999, the Obasanjo era, you could see that Obasanjo tried as much as possible to accommodate, because Nigeria is made up of many nations. There are confirmed today 371 ethnic groups, ethnicities that make up Nigeria. And while the founding fathers decided to agree that we should be a federation, is because federalism recognizes the diversity, of Nigerians. Or otherwise, 371, ethnic, groups, they are nations, so they can be on their own. There are many ethnic groups in Nigeria that are bigger than many countries in the world. And so the founding fathers decided, they agreed that given the diversity of Nigeria, and that it was proper, for us to have the federal, system of government. But of course, what happened in 1966 after the coup, because of the sentiments and sentimentalities of that period. The man who took over after the coup had failed decided to come up with a decree with a view to unifying Nigeria, arising from that coup, because the coup was destabilizing like any other coup. And then Aguirre came up with Decree 13. And that was how unification, unitarism, entered our otherwise federal structure. And those who continued after Aguiyi-Ironsi, didn't change what Aguiyi-Ironsi has started. And if anything, undermined the federal principles. And because perhaps to win the war, Gowon, who took over, after the counter coup, decided to create, 12 states with a view to undermining, Biafra, and ensuring, that all powers, came, from the center. So Nigeria became extremely centralized, and each government, that came in, including this, have been doing everything within its powers to endanger, not to engender, but to endanger, federal character, principles. And you noticed what happened during the regime of General Buhari, for 8 years. You have also seen what is happening, today with the current, president. And because Nigeria is not democratic, we're not federalizing, all right? And the principle of democracy is no longer working, because if the principle were working, on what basis, were the states, created? On what basis, did Gowon create the 12 states? On what basis did Murtala Mohammed create, 19 states? On what basis, did Babangida do his own? On what basis, did Abacha, do his own? So much so, that some regions, have more states, more local governments, than the other. Even the creation of states, undermines the principle of federalism. And so you shouldn't be surprised that each government that goes in there does things to undermine the principle of federalism. And the type of presidentialism that Nigeria practices allows, in fact, the president, after God, the president of Nigeria is the next, because he can decide to do. And you remember again how Buhari justified what his nepotistic appointments, saying that he appointed those that he knew. So the type of presidentialism that we copied from America is such that perpetuates, that undermines, that does not allow for federalism to take root. So if you look at part 4 of the interpretation 318 of what federal character of Nigeria, federal character principle means, is that we operate, we're not operating in the way it should be, we operate it in the breach.
All right, I mean, let's get to maybe more practical angles to the issue of federal character. And when appointments are made and certain sections of the country complain that they have been marginalized, it looks like it's not music to the ears of some other people, provided that they are at an advantage. Do you think there will ever be a level playing field, if there's anything like that, really, where when appointments are made and it's weighed on a balance, and clearly you can see that certain regions are not included, like the recent census committee was set up, and the South, South, and Southeast were conspicuously missing from the committee, and for some people, they still have the boldness to explain why it is so, and they are telling everyone that it's not a problem. It's a problem, isn't it? In a multicultural, multi-ethnic country, you can't give what belongs to a lot of people to just a few.
Do you know my view about this question? My view is that those who are marginalized are not speaking enough. They're not complaining enough. They're not doing things to show that they are annoyed. They are not complaining enough. Take, for example, the National Assembly, because whatever happens in the National Assembly is based on democracy. The voting pattern, forget what they are doing there now. The voting pattern is a democratic process. Now, you have a region like the Southeast with the least states Other states have either 6, 7, or 8, states. But the Southeast has only 5, states.
Professor Wasumba.
2. Yes, please.
Yeah, but sorry, we need to go on a break. Pardon me that I'm interrupting you. We will take a very quick break.
Okay.
When we come back, I will remind you so you can continue on that line of thought.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
What are your thoughts on the spate of sex for grades in Nigerian universities?
This very issue of owing salary should be criminalized.
How can they amplify their voices?
People don't have evidence.
Want to get to know about it? Have to stay tuned. Right here on Afia Morning Show to get the pulse and the feel of that.
Hey ladies, join us on Gyna Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Africa TV, DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17, where we will delve into health issues affecting girls and women in society.
Breastfeeding doesn't even cause breastfeeding. The frequency of breastfeeding determines the approach you take to make sure that your well-being is maintained.
Good evening to you, viewer, and welcome to Women in Business, a show that profiles women, executives, and even the next door store owners, showcasing Igbo greatness to the world.
I started always obsessed with books ever since I was a child.
The stress of always converting naira to dollar and
An incompetent means an incompetent person.
Hey ladies, join us on Gyna Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Africa TV, DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17, where we will delve into health issues affecting girls and women in society.
breastfeeding doesn't even cause breastfeeding. The frequency of breastfeeding determines the approach you take to make sure that your well-being is maintained.
Welcome to the latest and most amazing show upon your ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lunch Break.
You don't sing along.
I did single.
For real.
You're not a backup singer.
That's what they do for it.
What are your thoughts on the spate of sex for grades in Nigerian universities?
This very issue of owing salary should be criminalized.
How can they amplify their voices?
People don't have evidence.
You want to get to know about it? Have to stay tuned right here on Afia Morning Show to get the pulse and the feel of that.
Good evening to you, viewer, and welcome to Women in Business, a show that profiles women, executives, and even the next door store owners, showcasing Igbo greatness to the world.
I started always obsessed with books ever since I was a child.
The stress of always converting naira to dollar and
An incompetent means an incompetent person.
Hey ladies, join us on Gyna Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Africa TV, DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17, where we will delve into health issues affecting girls and women in society.
breastfeeding doesn't even cause breastfeeding. The frequency of breastfeeding determines the approach you take to make sure that your well-being is maintained.
Welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Our apologies for the rather long break we took. Some technical difficulties here, but we're happy to have overcome that. And thank you a lot to Professor Wasomba, who's had to wait on the line. Thank you, Prof, for waiting on the line. So you were just at the point of driving home your point regarding the clear, broad daylight activity of having to take what belongs to everybody and give it to a few, and don't think that there's something wrong with it.
Yes, because of the structure of Nigeria, I was saying that Nigeria is not practicing the federal system, of government at all. In your intro, you tried to define the federal character principle, different from the quota system. You realize that government, those in power, operate the quota system perfectly well. When it comes to the quota system, it is done exceedingly well. But when it comes, to the principle, of the federal character, principle, it is not done. And these things are spelled out in the Constitution, because if you look at the third schedule of the Constitution, Part 1, the federal character, commission must compose, of the chairman, and one person from each, state must be represented. All right, because those who drafted the Constitution, even in spite of the fact that I had said that is a decree, were careful, and it is documented in the ground norm about the composition, and there are responsibilities that the commission must, carry out. But you see, because of the nature of our presidentialism, as I said earlier on, the president has enormous, powers that he can decide to bring, his own people to do whatever. And there is no way, I have searched, the Constitution, there is nowhere, the point you made earlier on about the National Population Commission. The National Population Commission is one of those statutory bodies that are enshrined in the Constitution. And one person again, even though they are appointed by the president, each one person must come, from each state of the federation, okay, and the federal capital territory. And so there must be represented. There's nowhere, an ad hoc body will be asked to prepare, do technical, whatever it is called, in preparation, for the population commission, when already, it's been established. And even look back in history, we haven't had an authentic census. We haven't had an authentic population census. That's from 1962 and all along. And you remember the last time we had, census here was in 2006, between 2006 and now. So it's an emotive issue. It's extremely important, because the census, the figures determine how the resources of Nigeria are shared. So it's an extremely important, matter that shouldn't be toyed with. And so when you start with a technical committee different from the commission that is statutorily established, many groups will be afraid. Many groups will begin to complain. Many groups will think, that you are alienating them. And those groups, have a reason, to complain. That explains why the South, East people are complaining about this technical committee in which, no person, from the Southeast, no person from the South, South is included. But of course, is in line with the playbook of those who are running Nigeria. That playbook, is such, that, and I had said this in one of your programs, that the civil war is still on. The civil war, all wars are not fought through ammunition, through guns and all that. There is what we call policy war. And those who are defeated in a war, always suffer from policy wars. And so policy wars have been on, at the end of the war in 1970, in spite of the proclamation, of Gowon. That war is on, and that war is manifested in the policies of each government, that comes in. How come that after the counter coup in 1966, no, person from the Southeast has been found worthy to be president of Nigeria, even during the military era, and up to this time. So that war, is on, and that explains, the issue of marginalization. And my challenge, to those who are representing us, even though they're not going to win any debate, since, debates are decided, through democratic processes. But they have to talk, they have to disagree, they have to debate, they have to insist, that this marginalization, cannot continue, because it's a violation, of the ground norm of Nigeria.
So, if I understand your analysis, so the major problem the Southeast seem to be having is not necessarily the federal character principle, it's the fallout of the Civil War. That's what this is about, isn't it?
It is. It is, and I define it, I explain it, because I'm a Nigerian. I've lived in all parts of Nigeria. I've lived in the South-South. I've lived, in the Southeast. I'm living in the Southwest. So I understand Nigeria very well. I witnessed the war as a minor. I wasn't a majority during the war. But I remember what happened. I spent my Christmas in 1969 in the forest. We live in the forest. So it didn't start, today. So it's a continuation of that war, but in a different dimension. That dimension, is a policy war. And the policy war is subtle, but extremely destructive. And that's what is going on. And our few representatives, because they don't have the number, must insist that this marginalization cannot continue if we are to remain in accordance with the principles of the ground norm as we have read out. Because, these principles they are not allowed to work. They are operated in the breach. And so our people who have been elected to represent us in Abuja, our people who have been elected to represent us in the states, when last did you hear or see the governors from the Southeast, coming together? They can't even come together. They couldn't form a Bubagu. People are coming to kill them here and there. They couldn't form a Bubagu. They destroyed it. Have you seen them come together to articulate a position? Now they are getting some money from the devaluation of the currency. What have they done, with that money? Imagine if you had, the Southeast governors coming together, to start a rail system that connects, each of the states. The impact that will make in the lives of our people, in the development of the Southeast, beyond, the politics that they play, and all that. So we are not speaking enough as a people, as a group, as an ethnic group, because, the Nigerian state is made up of many ethnic groups. And each group has a right. It has a right to how our resources are shared. It has a right to ask questions about what goes to who. And this principle already established is being violated with opportunism. Nobody challenges it. I expect, those representing us in the National Assembly to take it up.
I mean, when you
beyond allowing others to do that, because they have a responsibility, because they are elected, people in the parliament.
Yeah, Professor Wasomba.
Lower houses.
Yeah, Professor Wasomba. If you've paid attention to what transpired at the Senate during the debate for the immortalization of Professor Humphrey Nwosu, I mean, they tried to put up an argument, but it looks like they were weak. They were outflanked. They were outflanked from every direction. So do you think they were weak? Do you think they were weak?
They were outflanked. Yes, there's no doubt about that. They were outflanked because they don't have the number, arising from the fact that there are five states, okay, for the southeast, and out of this five states, you have 3 senators from each of the states. So they were outflanked, numerically speaking. But even at that, they were not able to challenge that idiocy that took place that day. They didn't have the capacity to challenge it, all right, and make noise about it, because there was no reason, because there was no argument to stop Nwosu from being canonized. There was no reason. If you listen to what happened that day, they had made up their mind. And so our legislators there, yes, they were outflanked, but they were weak, in their response. And if they continue to show this level of weakness, they will do more. There will be more damage, to our people than what has happened, so far. So we have to encourage them. We know it's difficult. We know that they will be outflanked, but it's important for them to insist that certain things, be done, properly. They shouldn't allow anybody to blackmail them and browbeat them into submission. And that's what, we have been noticing.
I mean, clearly, there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, if you are from the southeast, you would notice that there's usually that first breath of pessimism anytime appointments are about to be released from the federal government. Those from the southeast will already start saying, well, you're not going to see a lot of people from here, by the way. And if you also remember that when the loan scheme, the students' loan came out, NEL Fund, students' loan scheme, when it came out, initially southeastern universities were not included. And some noise was made about it, and they came out to explain that the universities from the southeast did not submit any applications. I mean, all that back and forth. So each time there's a good reason why the southeast is coming to the table last, or why it isn't occupying a pride of place. So, but there has to be a way out of this. Do you think there is a likely way out of this, or is this how it's going to be, unendingly?
Yes, it will be unendingly if our people are not speaking enough. As I said earlier on, our people are not speaking enough. Our representatives are not speaking enough. Our governors are not speaking enough. Our elite are not speaking enough. They have to speak loud and loud and loud. They have to speak clearly. They have to show their anger. They have to express themselves. Because, every policy that is taken against, the Southeasterners, those who take these positions, those, who come with these policies, will always have one thing or the other to explain them away. And it is incumbent on our leaders, on our representatives, to insist that the proper thing must be done, that we must be heard. And if we insist, there is no way, we won't be listened to. Because we haven't, insisted enough, because we haven't spoken enough, because we haven't done enough, because we haven't shouted enough. That explains why, this thing is on and on, unendingly, to the point, and people like you are making efforts, bringing these things to the fore, to the front burner. And I thank you, for your efforts, because I watch your programs, trying to show that there is need, for our people to organize themselves and insist, that they are treated equally, because, what undergirds our principle, our federalism, is the principle of equity, and so if this aspect of the constitution, is undermined, if our ground is undermined in appointments, and other things, that take place in Nigeria, we have a reason to complain, because we don't want to go to war again. We suffered, during the war. There is a new war on, and that war, is the policy war, and our people should sit through it and insist, that the proper thing, is done. Because if you don't complain, if you don't say, this is who I am, nobody will come and define yourself for you. Nobody will come and define your problem. Nobody will do things, for you if you have not complained. And so we are asking our leaders that it is incumbent on them to complain and to ensure that what belongs to us must be given to our people, and we should not allow these things to be explained away because it is a ruse, it is lies, and our people must be up and doing to ensure that we are taken care of like other people.
I mean, it looks like that's a very tall order. And on one hand, the political representatives from the Southeast, who, from your analysis, don't seem to want to be hard-hitting with the central authority in order not to fizzle out of the scheme of things. Is this a very expensive dilemma on the part of our political elite? I mean, it looks like there is a two-edged sword issue here. I mean, like they say in Igbo, jaba jaba demma naba naba demma. So you can't go forward, you can't go backward. Is it a situation where someone is stuck in the middle? The Southeastern are stuck in the middle. They can't go forward, they can't go backwards.
Yes, that appears to be our position. But we have to insist. The Southeasterners are the voters. And so they have some power. Their votes constitute very big, very strong power. And so they should look for a way.
Are you there, Professor Wasamba?
Yes, I'm here. So let us look for a way.
That's right.
To vote in proper people. Vote in proper people, because it looks that we have not been voting in the right caliber of people. It looks that we haven't been doing that. Yes, we look stuck, but we have what it takes to vote in the correct people. We shouldn't vote money bags. We shouldn't vote people who will sell us. We shouldn't vote people who will go there and look the other way. We need to vote because our people are not doing enough. Yes, we are stuck, but we can get out of that situation if we have the requisite people with the news, with the gravitas, with all it takes to be able to defend our people. And there are 1 or 2 or 3 of them in the National Assembly, that speak out always in defense, of the Southeast. And we're encouraging, such people, in spite, of their party lines, in spite of their partisanship, that there is need, for them to come together as a group, and fight the cause, of the Southeasterners. So it's not a situation of 1 person or 2 persons or 3 persons alienating themselves, from that group. We need, group work, even in spite of the fact that we don't have the numerical strength, in the National Assembly. And our governors are selling out. They are not defending our people. Our governors should do a rethink, because, they are the closest, to the people. The Abuja people are far away, but the governors are there. They have to do a rethink and ensure, that they represent, and speak, on our behalf.
I think that would be a good place to leave it. Professor Chijioke Wasamba from the Department of English Language of Bafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Thank you for your deep analysis and insight on the program this night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. And that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be here tomorrow same time for another edition of the program. Up next is Nka with Chinalo Rumogu Eze. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.
Hey ladies, join us on Gyno Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right